Alright, so now we're going to work with subtracting integers. And we're going to start with the Algeblocks, just like we did with addition. Now when we put this in our notebooks, I did not use the smartboard file with you all. I used the document camera and I set up my notebook like yours was. So we had some questions on the left side we glued in, and we had those empty pictures of the Algeblock mats on the right hand side. So this is what we were using, the mats with the cubes, and then a pencil obviously to write everything down. When we are dealing with subtraction, we have to remember that it means take away. That's a fairly elementary concept, but it will help in identifying when subtraction is modeled. So we will do positive minus a positive first, then positive minus a negative, negative minus a positive, and negative minus negative. So we'll actually start out with subtraction with the same signs. So I'm going to start out with a positive minus a positive. So in your notebook, and we did number these because of the fact that we were drawing them on the other page in our notebook. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we drew those in our notes. We drew the model in our notes, but I'm going to do it on the screen here for you. So for this first example, I have 5 minus 3. Now obviously, I'll go ahead and write this before I model it. Obviously we know 5 minus 3 is 2, right? Because that's very fundamental. But how do we know how to model that? So we're going to start out with, it's a positive 5, that's our first number, so we would start by putting 5 positive cubes on our mat, and you drew these 5 cubes on your paper in your notebook. Alright, and then if we are going to subtract 3, because subtraction means take away, normally the way that we've seen this modeled on SWL in the past is that they will actually circle 3 cubes and then draw an arrow, doesn't matter which way your arrow is going, but just drawing an arrow off the mat showing that those cubes are coming off of the mat. And then what would be left are those 2 cubes over here that are both positive, so that's how you would model that my answer is positive. So normally with subtraction, what we've seen on the test in the past is them actually circling the number with an arrow showing that that is coming off of the mat. Question number 2 here is also very easy. We know what 4 minus 2 is. We know that it will be 2, but we also again have to model this. So we're going to start with putting our 4 positive cubes on the 4 cubes on the positive side of the mat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you drew them in your notebooks. And then we have to show that we are taking away 2. Okay, so we're not creating 0 pairs right here. I'm not putting 2 in the negative section and then crossing out 0 pairs, because if I were to do that, that would mean I was adding negative 2. I would get the same answer, and we will talk about that later on in this unit. But to show that you are actually subtracting when you're dealing with these mats or with the circles, when we get to those, you need to circle what you are subtracting. And again, it doesn't matter which way I draw my arrow, showing that those 2 are coming off the mat and that I'm left with 2 in the positive side. Alright, so for number 3, I have 2 minus 5. Now you cannot just reverse that and do 5 minus 2. Okay, I have 2 and I have to take away 5. So I need to start with my positive 2, my 2 cubes on the positive side of my mat. Now I do not have 5 cubes that I can circle to show that I'm taking them away. So this is where those 0 pairs are really going to come into play with subtraction. Again, if I were to put 5 cubes on the negative side, I would end up getting the same answer, but that would not be modeling subtraction. You'd be modeling the addition of a negative number. So to model subtraction when I don't have what I need, we have to go back to those 0 pairs that we did at the very beginning of this unit. So we said I can add a 0 pair to the mat, and it will not change the mat's value. I started with positive 2. I've added 1 0 pair, but because that 0 pair cancels each other out, the positive and negative cancel out, the value on my mat is still 2. I have more cubes on my mat, but the value is still 2. Now, by adding that 1 0 pair, I want to look and see, do I have in my positive side 5 cubes that I can circle to show that I'm taking them away? Not yet, I only have 3. So I'm going to add another 0 pair and see if I can get to that point. So again, I can add 0 to my mat and it does not change the value. I've essentially added 0 twice to that 2. So it has not changed the value. My mat's value is still 2. But I want to look, do I have 5 positives at this point that I can take away? Not yet, I only have 4. So then I would have to go ahead and add another 0 pair. And you would just keep adding 0 pairs until you have enough of whatever number it is you're trying to circle to take away. Now at this point, I do have 5 positives. So I'm going to switch to the pen here, and I'm going to go ahead and circle those 5 positives. And then I'm going to draw my arrow off the mat to show that they are coming off of the mat. And what I am left with is 3 in the negative side, or negative 3. So 2 minus 5 is going to be a negative 3. And it would make sense that if I'm taking away more than what I had to start with, my answer would be negative. Number 4 is set up the same way. I have more that I'm trying to take away than what I originally have. So I start with a positive 4, so 4 cubes on the positive side of my mat. And then I want to take away 8. That's taking away a positive 8. So I do not have 8 that I can take away. So I'm going to have to add 0 pairs until I have 8 positives. So if I add 1 0 pair, again the value of my mat would still be the 4 that I started with. I can add another 0 pair. I still have a value of 4 on my mat. I'm up to 6 positives right now, but I need 8, so I keep going. All right, I'm going to start to put some of these pairs kind of spaced out a little bit. They won't be directly across from each other, but that's okay. As long as I have 1 positive, 1 negative, they'll cancel out. So now I'm at 7 0 pairs, or excuse me, 7 positives with my 0 pairs, and I will add 1 more so that I can have a total of 8 cubes on the positive side of my mat. Now that I've got those 8 cubes, I'm going to go ahead and circle them to show that I am taking them off my mat, draw my arrow, and what I have remaining is 4 negative cubes, or negative 4. Number 5 is the same concept. I'm taking away more than what I have. So I've got to start by putting those positive 2 cubes on the mat, or drawing them in your notebook. I want to take away 6 positives that I don't have. So I add a 0 pair to see if that will give me what I need to take away. So if I add 1 0 pair, I have more cubes on the mat, but the value is still only 2. And I have 3 positives at this point. Not enough to take away 6. So add another 0 pair. That gives me 4 positives. Another 0 pair gives me 5 positives. And 1 more will give me 6 cubes on the positive side of the mat, which is what I need to take away. So I would circle those 6, draw my arrow showing them coming off of the mat, and I would be left with negative 4 because I have 4 cubes on the negative side of the mat. And for the last problem in this column, I have 3 minus 7. So you would start by drawing or modeling your positive 3. So you would drag 3 cubes, or draw 3 cubes on the positive side. and I want to take away 7, and I do not have 7 positives, so I add 0 pairs until I have the 7 positives that I need. So I add 1 0 pair, I have 4 positives, another 0 pair gives me 5 positives, another 0 pair gives me 6 positives, and another 0 pair gives me 7 positives, which is what I need to take away. So now I can circle those 7 positive cubes and show them coming off of the mat, and that would leave me with -4 again. So 3 minus 7 is a -4.